Hello, you are listening to Talking Utter Slot, the perfect antidote to the regret you feel about those late night slot car purchases on eBay. I'm Scott Brownlee.
I'm Pedro.
In this episode of Talking Utter Slot, we'll be chatting about new liveries on Alpine rally cars, 80s F1, dubious scale accuracy, and my return to club racing. But first, Pedro, what caught your eye this week?
Was it? You just throw me with the running order there. Did we not also going to announce that we're going to chat about Daytona?
Oh yes, that wouldn't take long. It was very dull,
Oh,
very
okay.
long, very dull.
Uh-huh.
No, I managed to find a free-ish sort of feed on YouTube, so I could
Dubious.
watch. It was dubious, and I haven't watched NASCAR for some years, and
There's a reason for
it
that.
was they were yeah. There's a reason for that. There was two long lines of cars lapping, presumably nearly flat out at 180 odd miles an hour, bumper to bumper, for lap after lap after lap, minute after minute, and it was like a very high speed traffic jam, really. And then every now and again, somebody would bump into somebody and they'd crash.
So,
And as far as I could make,
200 miles an hour roughly, um,
uh-huh.
500 miles. So the race is quite long. Do they have timeouts? Do they have stoppages? What?
Well, they have pit stops. They also seem to have something called stages, a bit like bicycle racing,
Yeah, they did introduce
where
that a while back, didn't
and they score points, which again is an indication to me that the whole thing's a bit
they?
dull. If you have to do, if you have to have two artificial finishes before you have the real one,
Yeah.
although possibly that's because at the real one, as best I could make out on the so-called highlights from NASCAR that I watched this morning, they had about 3 or 4 crashes in the last 2 laps because they kept trying to have the last 2 laps over and over.
Yeah.
And eventually, somebody from NASCAR just decided who'd won because when they threw a yellow or something or other, rather than it be who crossed the finish line first.
So if you
So very,
if you watched 4 hours of roundy, 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 not to get a genuine finish, that is dull.
it is a bit dull. The official highlights thing on YouTube was 13 minutes long, and about half of that was post race interviews. So even they think there's not much to show.
Do they drink milk at the end of this one, or is that just Indianapolis?
I think that's an Indianapolis thing.
Well,
I'm not sure. What was good was the free streaming service was fine up until the race started. So you could there was like hours of pre-race build-up of racing drivers in blazers and ties, which is always a bit odd. I don't. Why do Americans think you have to wear a blazer and tie to commentate on a motor race?
do they still?
But
That is sweet.
like, it's very ABC 1973
Isn't it?
at the India's 500. But what was interesting was Michael Waltrip, who you might remember was one of the Waltrip brothers.
Never
Even
met
I've
him.
heard of him.
Yeah.
He was I think he was a kind of okay driver, but he was more of a character. He was doing the Martin Brundle style kind of grid walk, albeit it was
Good.
up and down between the car.
Yeah.
And it was clearly all prearranged to
Oh.
the extent that when he met the man in the Wendy's Burgers car, a Wendy's Burgers QR
Oh,
code popped up in the
God.
corner of the screen. Um, but at least he had the charm and humour to kind of carry that off. And there was
Did he?
people with babies and all that sort of thing. Yeah, it was yeah.
Is that
So
part of the
actually,
highlights?
I enjoyed. Yeah, I don't know. That was live. I enjoyed that more than the races. So that was just me. So yeah, not much. Having said there's not much to talk about, I've now prattled on about it. But essentially, it was a disappointment. But it reminded me that years ago, when you could get NASCAR and IRL models from SCX and Skelectric, the I'm trying not to say Skelectrics.
And I'm encouraging you to say Skelectrics, but there you go.
Skelectric. When you could get NASCAR models, I thought, wouldn't it be great to build, probably from wood and route, a huge oval circuit that you could run these cars in a realistic way, so they were sort of flat out down the streets and kind of just hanging on round gently banked curves, and wouldn't that be marvellous? And it would take, weeks to build probably and all that, and then you'd get the car on there and you'd be pretty much flat all out all the way round, and it would just go drone, drone, drone. And I thought, yeah, but it's like the real thing, so I suppose.
But there
Anyway,
are, I've seen on YouTube people who have made big banked oval tracks, slot car tracks. And I just think, well, I don't want to draw the outside lane on that particular track because you're going to do easily an extra half a lap per 2 laps.
Well, well, I suppose it depends. Can you do bump drafting in slot
I
cars?
don't know.
I guess you can't do dra.
If you fulfilled your dream and made these things, you'd presumably have to. I don't know what the term is, but stack. You'd have to have a smaller wheel on the smaller tire on the inside and a larger one on the outside to get your cornering right. Is that right?
Consciously warped
Consciously warp your
chassis.
chassis.
That's
Yeah. Wow.
yeah.
Oh, maybe. Well,
That's how weird.
yeah, it's weird. It's technically possible, but let's not go there.
Yeah. File under all that, and hopefully we're not upsetting our American listeners. I think have we got American listeners? Not anymore. Anyway,
We did have one or two, yes.
sorry. Pedro, what caught your eye?
Caught my eye. Not a lot has rattled my cage this week. There is something that I'll get to that obviously has rattled my cage, but something that I thought was very pretty, although the photos weren't that enlightening, really, on slotcarpassion.com, always worth a visit. Alpine's, is it a 310 from Team Slot? They're doing 3 new liveries, on the 310 that they do. And they all, I think, are Le Mans cars, and they all look quite pretty from above, but I don't believe there were any side-on shots. It was all aerial stuff, which is a bit odd. But
I believe they're Avant Slot, not Team
oh,
Slot.
I apologise. Oh, really? Okay. So in my notes, I'd put Team Slot brackets. Don't fully trust Avant Slot. I'm not sure I fully trust them either, to be honest. But I didn't. Are you sure of your fact?
Why don't?
man?
This is talking utter slot. We don't have to
That's
be sure
very
of
true.
our facts,
That's
but
very
no, I
true.
think I believe that it's an Avant Slot model. Yes.
I didn't know they did one. Oh no, I did know they did one. Oh, whatever. The Team Slot one is quite pretty, but I just don't trust their mechanicals. The Team Slot one is very pretty. I know someone at Oxford who has got one, and I was sore tempted. I think he offered to sell it to me. I was sore tempted by it, but it's a pretty car, and I don't have a lot of space for purely pretty cars. I like my pretty cars to run pretty well, and if it's a pretty car that runs pretty atrociously, then that's pretty much not my bag. And how many times can I get the word pretty into a couple of sentences?
Quite a few, I
Apparently
think, is
so,
the answer
yeah.
to that one.
Yeah. So that was good. I like the look of those, but I won't buy one. Scalauto, correctly pronounced Scalauto. F1s, there's yet more chatter about the livery ones, Williams's and Ferrari's, but I'm not interested. I want the Nakajima one, and that apparently I think might not make it until the middle of the year. But I'm almost borderline excited by those. I like the idea of them. They're an era of car that I like, particularly if they do a Jordan. A 7-Up Jordan would be great in that in that shape. So I was excited about those.
Okay, but and will you get one though?
Well, I get one what?
Well,
Scalauto.
you said you're excited.
Oh yeah. No, the Nakajima. I've pre-ordered it. I pre-ordered it ages ago. Like I pre-ordered the Scalauto NSX ages ago, and no sign of either. But I have mentioned it before. I am in possession of a Scalauto NSX white kit, and I'm humming and hawing about what paint job I slap on it in the summer when it's a bit more favourable to spraying.
Oh well, if I can lead you to a certain conclusion, having at your recommendation, it must be said, I've been binge watching Road to Le Mans with Michael Fassbinder
Oh, I love that
on
series.
YouTube.
Yeah.
It's very good, so thank you. You did encourage me to watch it. That green sort of satin green 911 that team races, beautiful.
Yeah, and
I
we
would
picked up
buy
Carrera
it.
doing it.
They are hopefully I like my Carreras, but I hope Skeletric do that livery as well.
And
Simon, if you're listening,
I won't pay you the £3 unless you do it. I believe there is a set of decals available, so you could do a DIY on that if you were. So you're shaking your head. You don't do DIY.
I think yeah. Well, it's yes, it wouldn't be as good. Let's put it that way.
No, it wouldn't be as good, but it would be yours, and that's what I like about white kits. One, they aren't the same as everybody else's, although one that I'm working on, and I annoyingly lost a couple of the decals for because it's taken me so long to do. But a Scalauto 991, I was trying to do the Coca-Cola livery, and lo and behold, they announced they're going to do the Coca-Cola livery. So theirs will be better than mine, but mine will be mine, and that's what I like about it.
Talking about stickers, decals, decals, weren't
Decal
you decal?
française.
Weren't you? I think it would still be. Anyway, wouldn't you had mentioned to me that you were a little disappointed in was it an NSR 908 with stick-on
Oh
headlamps?
no! That's well and truly cage rattled. I mean, and I tried to tell them off when they did the first one, but they didn't listen to me. I said,
They've
why
just
would they?
ignored you.
Why would they? Well, except why would they not? Um, yeah, they've announced a Yerst Racing 908. I think it's Daytona. Obviously, a bit of nighttime racing. Obviously, need some headlights. So they just put some decals on. That's outrageous. I'm sorry. I just don't approve. It's just cheap. Cheap, cheap, cheap.
Well, it's Fly did the same, didn't they, on some of their 908s? I've
No,
got
did
some
they
that
really?
to be well to be fair, it's not actually the head. It's the as would accurate at the start of the race, the covering taped over the headlamps. They've just done as a tampo printing, so it sort of looks right, but I can't say. But of course, it reminds us of our friends in NASCAR again with stick-on headlamps.
Yeah.
Can I redeem myself with NASCAR? Because one of the things I'm most excited about for this year is Le Mans.
Oh yes.
And one of the reasons I'm most excited about Le Mans is all of the wonderful new cars, but Garage 54,
Oh
fifty
my
six,
god.
whichever it is,
Yeah.
the extra one, which is a NASCAR. They're going to run a NASCAR at Le Mans,
And who's driving
which is
it?
something that for Jimmy Johnson,
And
Jenson
there you go.
Button, and a guy I can't remember, Rockefeller. Is it Rockefeller?
That's
Is
a
the
bit
third
damning
one?
that we can't remember the
Um,
third guy, isn't it? Sorry, mate.
well, I think
You don't count.
sorry, yeah, I think it's Africa, and but Jimmy Johnson, Jenson Button, fantastic. And when this thing is going to sound great, it's going to be this open pipes V8 going.
there
It'll be
are
brilliant.
there are some YouTube videos, or certainly on Instagram, Jensen was posting some stuff of the thing rumbling around the track, and it does look quite. I think next to, I don't know, whatever Ferrari GT3s may or may not appear there, it's just going to look like a huge, great slab of American iron. It's going to sound
It's
like a
going to be
huge,
great.
great slab of American iron. Uh, I kind of want it to do quite well, but hell, if they actually got somewhere good, it would be amazing.
Well, it will be interesting to see how close it gets. But of course, one of the things in testing, because uh, NASCAR cars don't have lights, they just have stickers on the body that look like lights.
Ah, there we are.
They've got to actually develop headlamps and tail lights and all that stuff for this NASCAR because ordinarily it wouldn't carry it.
Wouldn't it be ironic
So,
if the thing, 10 hours into the race, as the night is there, the thing that actually cripples it is the fact that their lights aren't up to snuff and their lights don't work and they have to retire because the lights
that would
aren't
be
good.
that would be
Ironic.
irritating to the entire operation. But I'm really excited about that. So yeah, so I've not got a complete downer on NASCAR. I think it's great.
Going back,
Anyway,
the sound of it. The last time I haven't been to Le Mans for many a year, and I'm trying to think of maybe it was 2002, 2003. Sitting under one of the tribunes, which I dare say you can't do now, but sheltering under one of the tribunes at night. One of the things that kept me awake was the sound of the yellow Corvettes going past because they were very distinctive. You cannot. There's all this European multi-valve, multi-cylinder stuff going past, and then suddenly there's this cart and horse type affair that just growls past. Excellent.
it is yeah, it is. It was a good sound. Anyway, that's to come. That's something to look forward to in June.
But you mentioned stickers, and so fake headlights, almost as bad
Uh-huh.
as the fish eyes on the 80 quid Mustang Thunderslot. Almost as bad as that thing I sent you
Yes.
a link to, where I actually said, "What the actual effety Jeff is this?" And I'll put a link up somewhere. I'll put some pictures up if you go to YouTube. What was that thing? A wing car, a painted up wing car, pretending to be a
It
Toyota.
it was my description. The description was 124th custom painted Toyota LMP slot
Yeah,
car.
no, it wasn't.
Where no, well this looks like the sort of silver insert of something that's got. It looks like a bit of the
Yeah,
packaging. You know the
yes,
bit
it
you
does,
get
doesn't
in.
it? You slot it.
It look, slot it package you with a bit that's sort of moulded over the top of the car to hold it.
Oh,
But it
someone
looks
has
like
to do
that.
that. Someone has to convert one of
It,
those into a car.
well, this is it. It's painted mostly silver with a red bit down the middle and a little lump with it,
And
and black lines, and it's dreadful. But the thing which just kills it for me, because I like scale models. The whole point is it's scale models. This has got a stick-on front wheel.
oh,
So it's not. They've not even got a wheel arch. It's not even. They've got a stick-on picture of a front wheel, and they've not even made it touch the ground. They've got it hovering.
but why haven't they
So
painted it?
no.
Because if they painted it on the inside, I mean, it'd be a bit. They're obviously a bit challenged on the painting because when you say they've sort of blacked in the panel lines, to scale those panel lines would be about 4 inches wide. They're massive, great Sharpie lines that they've inked on.
You would. Oh yeah, you would lose small children down them in real life. I mean, not just panel lines; they're massive. Anyway, it's completely not what I think of as a model car or even a slot
I don't know
car.
why they
It's,
bother calling it 1/24th either. Why say it's a scale when it clearly isn't a scale of model of anything? It's just a wing car. I mean, yes, I shake my head in disbelief at it, but I accept grudgingly that this is a broad church, the slot car church, and people can do that if they want. But really, must they?
well, I saw I've somewhere on YouTube, and God, I'll try and find the link. It's a purports to be a world record lap, so it's a big commercial track, massive, kind of quite big thing, and it takes 1.23 seconds or something.
That's weird.
I mean, you literally cannot see the car going round.
I nearly
Crazy.
sent you that link. We must have both got that this week. I think that's something to do with Chummy from Cleve Tech Tips on YouTube. I think that was the World Championships that he was at. I'm going to point the finger at him anyway. I saw that and they go, whoa, a world record. And I'm thinking, well, it's not a world record, is it? It's a track record, but it's a different track to other tracks around the world, so it's not a world record. But it was just ridiculous. You couldn't see it.
Yeah, I mean, maybe he is, and I'm, as we'll find out later, I'm not the best throttle man in the world, but
seamlessly.
he must just have planted the metaphorical foot down and held it, because you couldn't actually see it in order to make any throttle input.
Part of that might have been
Anyway.
the wide-angle lens, because it's an aerial shot, isn't it? It looks like the camera's stuck on the ceiling.
Bemused me. That's what it's not for me. So if you enjoy that sort of thing, great. But
But Scott, what you've done there is a seamless link into what you were doing last week when you went clubbing, and I'm not talking Magaluf weekend.
Yeah, a return to racing of sorts. So the background is I used to go to a couple of slot car clubs once a week or once a fortnight. So, but that was about 10, 15 years ago. And once I got my own track, I kind of stopped doing that because it was easier just to as it were, go and play on my own thing. So, but every now and again, I going back to one of the clubs. And one of the things I've always liked doing is visiting different tracks and clubs all over the place. So over the years, bit of a slot gypsy, I've been to places. So went down to an old haunt at Bowlectrics down in Hampshire, which is a routed wood, 6 lanes, very analogue, paper score, cards, and you drive heats, you score 4 points for a win, 3, 2, 1, add that up, and you get to the thing. We had 4 classes in the night, so GT3 from pre-2000.
Do they not have timing then?
The timing is a DS box, so you press the go button and it times each. There's 4 boxes, one for each lane, and it gives you times, etc. But we only record who won, who came second. No records of time, etc. And so yeah, 4 classes, GT3 from pre-2000. TV and movie, which I thought was a genius classification, but we'll come back to that. GTE and Hornby front-engined classics. Now, this is one of the great things about these clubs, was I think when you won a week or a quarter, you got to pick the classes that you wanted. And so this is the definitions. Now, in racing, I had an old Polycar 911 GT3, it fitted that. I didn't think it'd be particularly quick, but it was, it fitted that one. I had an Aston V8 from one of the set cars, the Scalextric's Aston, the bright red one, which I think just looks lovely. No interior. And for Hornbury front engine classic, I took a Caterham, which I thought was going to be a Caterham 7, nice and lightweight. I have two of them. They're very well running. And for TV and movie, I thought, well, I've got Batmobile, I've got other things. In a few months' time, a Lady Penelope Fab 1 may have been a choice.
We all will have one.
Yeah, but I took my Starsky and Hutch Gran Torino.
Did you take a lot of
which I thought,
second cardboard boxes?
Sadly not. No, I should have done. But what I thought, this will not be too bad, because essentially it's a big but effectively the same as a Trans Am Camaro Mustang, isn't it? So
it raced at Le Mans.
The same tyres, yeah, and it raced at Le Mans. It did. Anyway, it took it along, but it turns out that the interpretation of TV and movie, I was a little bit too literal. I thought dramatic TV and movie, and of course as in real motor racing, others had gone, okay, well, Formula One's on the telly, so I can run a Formula One car, or I can run. So basically, it became an open class. You could run
point of order,
almost anything.
I would not allow an F1 car. That's outrageous.
Well, there was F1, there was Indy cars, there was everything. So, which is fine. It's all a bit of fun. And anyway, it's no more or less competitive than me running a Gran Torino against a Mr. Bean Mini or I mean, the modern Scalextric's catalogue is, you could, Blues Brothers car, all that sort of stuff. So it was good fun. I mean, the only class I came reasonably close to pace, because I'd be trying to remember the track and not fall off, was the Caterhams, which I think was the last one. But when I say reasonably close to the page, out of the 9 people who were there, I think I probably came 7th. But that was good enough. It was good fun. And then on Saturday, the contrast was huge, because it was Electrics is in an outbuilding, sort of an old barn or stable or something, and it's.
I went once, I think, after the Haven't Swap meet a few years back, probably pre-pandemic. Everything seems to be pre-pandemic. They opened up so that if anyone had made a purchase at Havant, they could sort of run up the A3, I don't know, up a road, and go and get a little blast, which I did, and I was envious of the setup because it's permanent, and it did appear to be sort of farm buildings, but it's a great little track.
It's great. I think, as ever, everybody's sort of. I saw some old friends. Everybody's welcoming. It's good fun. But the new South Coast Slot Car Club, to give it its full and proper title, is quite a different beast, and it's been organised and set up by Johnny's Workshop, as people might recognise him from the forums.
At that point, you're supposed to say friend of the podcast, Johnny's Workshop. Although I'm assuming a lot. He may be offended by us. I don't know. He might be after this.
Yeah, so far, friend.
So far, yeah.
No, so far. No, I should be fine. And what's interesting about it is a number of things for me, anyway. Is that it's once a month. It's set up in a high street cafe on the floor, sort of at the back half of a cafe, which is a sort of small. It's got a stage, dance floor type, so you can hold small concerts or whatever there, but it's on the floor. Again, YouTube is your friend, so look up Johnny's Workshop or on the forums. And he builds a 4-lane Carrera track, which is a different layout every month, so new track for everybody. And I think he's been running it for about 4 or 5 months, and I wanted to go, and it's Saturday afternoon, so it's great. Went down there. Computer controlled racing timing. In fact, it's a system that Jean, Johnny is in fact Jean. Jean created during lockdown when he was doing his own thing and having after that getting mates round to the house. And it's very effective. In fact, it'll run itself once you press go. A race run, countdown, race starts, does all the timing, race finishes, and then a timer starts. It generates the grid for the next one. It shows you which lane you should be on, and it counts down. And if you don't do anything, it'll start the race, and off you go.
Has he done all of that? Has he sort of made the sensors and done the software? And
I don't know if he made the hardware. I think he certainly made the software or adapted the software to do it. But it's quite impressive. I mean, compared to a pressing a button on a DS to kind of reset and start.
Yeah.
It's very big, very 21st century. Let's put it that way.
I have a
Uh,
DS timer, and I will confess, I don't know if I ever had instructions. It's got probably only two buttons on it, and I never remember how to properly start a race. And quite frequently, I find that I'm in some kind of timed thing rather than actual kind of free running. It's just a mystery to me, that device, but it gives me timing, and I'm sorry, digression.
well, that's it. No, 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 and actually, you've segued neatly onto. So, whereas Bulletrix and clubs that I'm more used to, you run a race, and each heat is an individual race, and there's a winner, and you get points, and then you total up those points, and that's who's won the category. What the guys at South Coast Stock Car Club, or SCSCC, I don't know which is easier to say, down in Worthing, uh, although you run four heats and you're racing against different people because you're on different lanes, actually it's a cumulative time, and that generates that. So you're not really in a race as such. It's a kind of a time trial, although you're on track with different people. That's a bit weird for someone who's used to a kind of, am I in second place, am I in third place, should I go any faster or should I just be careful?
But that's a club thing, isn't it? Because we do that at Oxford, and I never fully understand why it isn't just, the World Championship for Formula One. For most championships, it's like the winner gets 10 points, the second place gets so many points, the third place gets so many, and you add up the points. It's not done on cumulative time over a season. It is a source of annoyance to me, and it is a source of amusement to the rest of the Oxford people, that once we finish a series of races and they announce who has won, and they say, "Oh, I only beat you beat me by 2 seconds." I then say, "Can we just see what the points are?" And partly I do that because 9 times out of 10 I manage to jump a space because I'm not top three, but I might just scrape fourth if we do it purely on points rather than time. But it's a club thing. I don't get it either. Why don't we mimic the real world?
Well, clearly individual clubs do things differently, and there's no right or
Well,
wrong.
there is.
It just was.
There's my way of doing it.
Okay, there are different ways of doing it, and it works. But you couldn't do it without having the electronics. I mean, I think that's maybe where if an old-fashioned kind of human eyeballs, biro, and a clipboard, there's no way you could do it that way. So it lends itself to something with that.
Do you mean old-fashioned way,
that
rather like you see those charming photos of girlfriends of Jackie Stewart and Nicky Lauda sitting on pit walls with stopwatches, making notes of times and things? That wouldn't work with slot cars, would it?
Not least because we don't have anything like Jackie Stewart's girlfriend. In fact, I think she was his wife even then.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Why do slot cars not attract attractive models?
Why does spending a night racing toy cars with a bunch of middle-aged beardy men not attract young women?
It's a mystery to me, Scott.
Who knows? It's a mystery. However, no discrimination involved. Yeah. It was as I say, it was guys made me very welcome. Jean lent me a car because I didn't have a DTM, which I didn't break, I'm pleased to say. And I think, again, based on the classifications, there's a little video. We'll post a link to the video. I think I was as high as so there was 11 people racing. I think I was as high as 6th in one class and as low as 10th in another one. Fine. It wasn't really what it was all about. I was there to try something new, meet some more people.
It's the taking part.
What was really
taking
part? That's what us losers always say. What's interesting though was that people came from far and wide, and I mean far. There was a chap there from Weymouth, and according to Google Maps, that's more than 100 miles each way, and that's quite a commitment. Now I've travelled to some distance. I've gone to Switzerland to race toy cars, so I can't say. But that was a kind of one-off with mates for the weekend thing. So it's interesting that it's drawing people who are in existing clubs are coming to this one. My view is it's a fantastic opportunity. It's in a high street cafe, for God's sake. The people who are going, people are coming in for a coffee and a sticky bun, and they can see people having fun with toy cars. So the opportunity to kind of draw in newbies, I would have thought, was far higher than the typical club in an outbuilding on a farm or a village hall or something. And I just wonder if how a newbie would get along with that, because there's a lot of car prep, there's tire prep,
I
etc.
told you got to
Um,
prep your tyres, Scott. I told you.
well, I didn't, and
I
I
told
managed
you.
to come sixth in one class or other, so I don't know what that means. Um,
Fifth if you prep your tyres, Scott.
yeah, it's just again, it's just not what I do. So I think the furthest I got was I sort of gave the tires a quick brush with my thumb before the start, just to kind of
Put a layer of grease
clean,
on,
clean,
and away you went.
clean, Well, more to clean the crumbs from the sausage roll. I mean,
From the cafe.
I have to. What? Yeah, it's definitely the slot car club with the best catering that I have ever been to. The coffee was very good, and when they order it, and you go up, pay the man, and I order a sausage roll halfway through the afternoon. He brings it to you. I mean, it's not just
That's
it's
outrageous.
wait. It's trackside service. I
Wow.
think they should bill it as that's a major attraction for the thing. Anyway, so that's my return. So I've been racing twice in 1 week. I think last year I went racing twice in the whole year, and the last time before that was years before that. So it was good. And as I say, thank you to the guys. They made me very welcome. One of them even mentioned the podcast.
A
So yeah,
listener? A
I've
listener?
met a list. I've met a listener.
Ah. Did they ask for your
Yeah.
autograph?
No.
Yeah, sad times. So you think you'll go again? Because basically what you've done there, I think, you've sampled two sort of extremes, really, haven't you? I mean, I always get the name wrong, but Bolectric one is a permanent setup, routed wood. Uh, the Worthing one is random because he posts on his website what the layouts are going to be months in advance. And like you said, it always changes. I think we have to get you to somewhere else where they've got a kind of semi-permanent thing, um, and they're more into cleaning their tires.
What, like Oxford?
Uh,
I've been
yeah,
I've been to
I
Oxford.
think our
I mean,
attitude is slightly different to a lot of clubs. I don't think we're. I'm going to use the phrase we're not as up ourselves as a lot, or certainly I manage to try and keep us un-up ourselves as much as possible. Any club
I
that
think the
I'm a
phrase you
member
look.
of would
I think the phrase you're looking for is down to earth,
down to earth.
perhaps, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
grounded.
we've got a chap who is always makes me giggle. I think it's called a hard body championship or national hard body championship on Slot Forum, and he's always top 3 or 4 in that. Seemingly, whenever I look at the results, and he's a regular racer, and he does well, and he comes along and he tolerates my idiocy. So top marks to him. But I think you need to
Anybody who
try.
knows me will.
Go on, sorry.
No, anybody who knows me knows that the last thing I've got is a hard body. It's very soft and squidgy. But
But I think you're on a slippery slope, and we need to encourage you to go to another club. Where else might be near you? I can't think of any. Isn't there some? Didn't there used to be a club in Hastings?
well, there is another club in Worthing,
Oh, oh,
which is more
oh, yeah,
famous to
yeah,
me
yeah.
as it.
I've been there. They do digital though, don't they?
They do digital.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing I ever won was a digital championship, a one-off tournament, perhaps at a Hornby weekend. I'm sure that past success is no guarantee of future form. I think is the best thing.
I can't think what
But no,
the other.
I'm tempted to go there.
Yeah, I would encourage you to. I went once. I tried it once and I didn't like it. I went once and it was interesting. Partly I went because I wanted to try digital, and I did find it interesting. You needed, it struck me, a spotter. I mean, we were in teams of two for certainly the one race that I remember. We were in teams of two, and your co-driver was basically a spotter who's, I think, keeping an eye on the fuel or keeping an eye on the competition or just keeping an eye while you concentrated on the racing. And it was interesting, but then don't know what it is now. Then it was a 2-lane digital setup, and I just didn't like it. I'm afraid. But they had a big
Okay.
circuit, and it was fun. And I've never been. I've never been since, and have no plans to go again. Sorry. The people running it are
Well,
nice people, though, without a word.
well,
Without a word. I
here's
doubt.
here's a thought to plant in your mind. One of the things they run is effectively a team race, and it's teams of two.
Isn't that what I just said, Scott?
So yeah, but you could come along,
Oh my
and we
god.
could enter as a team,
Oh yeah, we could do that.
and you could try and convince me of the merits of putting things on my
Yeah,
tires.
yeah, yeah. The thing is, I've just checked my diary and I think I'm busy that day.
Oh,
Yeah, shame. I'm done with digital. I've tried it once and I didn't like it. Actually, I've tried it several times and I didn't like it. But
it's not
the
proper.
team thing, it's not pure. It's a perversion
It's
of a pure thing.
it's a. You're more of an Old Testament slot racer, are you?
Oh, yes, exactly so. And I've got my commandments and I keep to them.
Okay. Anyway, I think we should. I like going to clubs. I mean, I've been to different ones. As I say, I tend to go once just to kind of tick. See, tick the box. That's wrong. That's the wrong motivation.
I like the
I
idea of
like travelling
sampling
to
other
places.
people's
Hmm.
tracks because I do.
Hmm.
I don't. I think Oxford's been going now something like 12, maybe 15 years, and the circuit has only changed probably three times in that period. And the second change was not great at all. It wasn't massive. We made it into a figure of eight, but the bulk of the twisty stuff stayed exactly the same. And there is a degree of kind of, well, let's try something else. Um, See how
Hmm.
other people race.
That's good. I think you should come down to the one in Worthing in the cafe.
Well, I
In
kind of intend to. I'm not exactly sure when, but Johnny, if you're listening, I apologise in advance. I do intend to try and descend on your cafe, if only for a sausage roll and a coffee
yeah,
delivered
and
to me.
if he gets higher than six, he'll only gloat about it.
I won't get higher than six. You see, from what you were saying earlier, there were some serious people there.
There's some very very quick guys, and I mean blindingly quick. And I think again one of the things which kind of struck me as odd because I'm used to crash and burn. And forgive me, I can't remember who it was, but there was one race. A car came off three times that I noticed, and he still won that heat. So he's going very fast.
Yeah,
Whereas crash and burn, he would have been out
I
or going slower.
have a real
So
issue with crash and burn because I think if you're not good, it reduces your track time, um, and I think that's a negative thing. But obviously, it does. In theory, it does make you more disciplined and make you more cautious, maybe, or just it just sharpens you up, possibly. Because if you do come off, then that's it. You've done your race. But if you come off after three corners, it's a bit gutting, isn't it?
but that's again earlier on we were talking about versus real life, and it's how often does somebody go out at the start of a Grand Prix and that's it, or even at the start of Le Mans for God's sake.
Yeah,
So it's horses for courses. People enjoy different things, and it can be. I think it's one of the great things about visiting different clubs. It's not just different track surfaces, track layouts, but also the different ways that people go racing.
and it is
The
a broad
different ways
church.
people have, yeah, and the different ways people have fun with toy cars. Um, and I think we're going to talk about it on another episode. But we came across something where a guy's done a bit of actual
Oh yeah, you mentioned
kind of
this.
almost scientific research into happiness from slot cars, and I think that's a really interesting thing to look into.
And I did say I would check out that video, and I will because it did. I watched the first couple of seconds, as I said, and I just thought, oh, this is interesting. I don't know why, and I'm going to get boring here, but I find the idea of studying the evolution of cultures quite interesting. As I get older, I realise this is maybe a massive digression, and perhaps I'll edit this out. But when my Auntie V died, she was 101 years old, and in the eulogy, somebody said, "So Vera came into this world, and there was no Woolworths in the UK. Vera came in, Woolworths came in, sorry, and they set up a massive company within the UK, and they went bust or whatever they did and closed, and Vera was still around. So she sort of saw everything from horses to space shuttles, and I find that fascinating. And I realise now that I am as old as I am that I've seen some incredible changes. I mean, the internet and all that stuff for starters. Um, but I find the evolution of culture interesting, and I find the idea of like I say, it's a broad church slot cars, and there are so many different types. It is a curious thing because you were saying about the whole. What were you talking about? The way that we're racing cars, but we're not in the cars. We're just watching a car do the racing. It's slightly existential, isn't it?
there's something about that, and I think it's something I'll maybe look into later. But it's certainly, I get a lot of fun watching the car,
Yeah.
even though I'm driving it. So it's not completely an external experience, but it's somehow or other this duality of both it's me doing it, but I'm watching it happen.
Yeah.
And I'm not. And I think the only other thing that's like that is radio control.
Yeah.
I guess where you've got a vehicle or an
And
aircraft
you're
which
even
is
more in
doing
control of it
something.
because you put the steering angle in.
Yeah. So it's people can write in and tell me there's a million other things in life which are the same. But yeah, it seems it's an interesting facet of this.
Scott, we've got vaguely philosophical at the end of this one. I'm not sure that's a good.
Oh, it's age.
I don't think that's a good look.
It's age. It's not a good look. Okay, well we'll sum up then. So to sum up, you've seen some things which have wound you up,
And some things that
I've
have not
been
wound me up. Let's not paint me as a completely grumpy sod.
Okay.
I mean, I am, but let's not paint me that way.
And I've been racing not terribly successfully. So the universe is kind of where it started. Which is what
goes around comes around, and that's
yeah. And we've upset our American listeners,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry about that. Please keep listening.
The thing is, if they comment, if I put this up on YouTube and they comment, then that helps us. So let's encourage them to do that.
Does it?
Yeah.
Even if they say we don't know what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah. Because then I'll engage with them and argue the toss. And then
I look forward to that.
So what do you do? Let's try and. Is there anything to ease this to an end nicely by? What are we doing next week?
What are we doing next week? Well, we don't know, but I've got. There's going at least one slot car, an eBay purchase, which should be arriving.
Are you buying that wing car?
No. Very much no. Not my thing. I don't think it would even go round my track, to be honest. No. I mean, I think yeah. But no, it's an old SCX car, which is probably quite slow, but it looks lovely, and I will talk about that when it arrives. Who knows what new stuff is arriving? Having had the Rover, the Bastos Rover was a very big excitement a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it? So there's a few other things which are still on pre-order, so we'll see what trickles through. Maybe we should close by asking, what is it you've recently received, Pedro?
Me?
Yes.
Well, I can tell you one thing that I received this morning in the post, which had me very happy and might see me toddle off to Pendle, was something from the what do you call it? The premium bonds people.
Oh, excellent!
Happy days. That's the way you start a Monday. Something through the letterbox, and it's on your scale. I think it's actually it's on your scale. It's two slottets worth. So I'm very chuffed with that. But I probably won't buy 2 slottets worth. What am I doing?
Thunderslot.
This tomorrow. Yeah, Thunderslot. No. Gosh, it's 2 slottets or 1 fish-eyed 80 quid Mustang. I will get over it, but not for a while. Oh.
Well, how much is the Thunderslot Mustang?
You know when I said it's 88 quid?
That would be a hint. Well, it's not much more than a slotted then, is it? So
20 quid? What's a slotted now from young Sean?
60?
Yeah, 20. That's quite a bit. For something that is... No, let's not go there. Oh, yeah, there. So something that's got fish eyes. I will see one of those in the flesh tomorrow, which will be interesting. I will doubtless comment on that next time we speak. And tomorrow at the club, it is... what is it? I've killed the website, which has all the meetings on. So apologies to anyone who goes to our website trying to find what we're doing tomorrow. I believe it's classic NSRs.
Is that a tactic so that nobody can prep the right?
Yeah,
car
everyone rocks up
practice?
with the wrong thing, and I go, no, it's this.
I like the devious. Yeah. It's very good.
Got to win somehow, Scott. Fair means or foul. Okay,
it's just about taking part. Anyway,
never.
As I say, if you've listened this far, thank you very much, and we'll be back again. Sorry, when we've worked out what else we can talk about. Thanks for listening. Happy slotting, everybody.
Happy slotting. Cheerio, Scott.